welcome to another week of Ghost Chat Radio. I am your host, the Paranormal Rebel, and with me, as always, I have the Paranormal Diva, Jodi Smith, in the house. What's up, Sugar Bear?
Hey, everybody. I missed y'all last Tuesday.
You did. You missed a pretty interesting show.
I know, I did. I'm so sorry I couldn't be here. I totally missed you guys. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we have my typical faithful fans. And
yeah. Jason, you're cutting out on me a little bit.
Hello?
Hey.
For some odd reason, my call keeps dropping. I don't know why.
Oh, is that what happened? I wasn't sure if my audio was out or if it was you.
No, my phone keeps saying lost signal. I'm like, what the fuck?
Weird. Are you having some weather out there?
Oh, no, it's sunny.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, I have weather every day.
I've got storms. I've actually got thunder and lightning storms going on over here.
Mm-hmm. That's weird. I don't know. I have no idea. It might be those solar flares that popped off last week.
Maybe, yeah. There's some weird shit going on.
Who the hell knows?
Everything sounds good now.
Excellent. But we do have a great show for everybody tonight.
Yes.
Why don't you kick off and discuss a little bit about our guest?
I'm super excited. I have been sort of getting to know her lately. Great guest from California, Nicole Strickland, also known as Nicole's Ghost Girl Strickland. And Nicole's actually pretty well known. She's been around for a while. She is really probably the foremost well-known researcher on the ship, the Queen Mary. I believe that it's permanently docked at Long Beach out in California. Is that right, Nicole?
Yes, that is. Yeah, she is currently docked in Long Beach, California. Came in 1957 after 1,001 luxury voyages. So she's been there for a while.
Wow.
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
What an incredible place. God, what an incredible place to, research and especially have access to it all the time like you do. And Nicole's been featured on, lots of different, she's been a guest at a lot of different, paranormal conventions and different radio shows. And anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun talking to her tonight. And she's got some audio clips. Oh, you're welcome. And normally we like to kick off the show with some weird news stories. And Jason and I we like to take turns picking them out, and Jason's got some creepy stuff for us to go over tonight. So we're going to, we kind of go through it, and, you can jump in and talk about it with us.
Sure.
So what do you want to start out with tonight, Jason?
I should mention that some of the websites that we do get these news stories off, some of them are good websites, and I can trust. Some of them, not so much. They're all bullshit. But it is tonight. We've got stories from a website called Before It Was News, and you can find these stories at beforeitwasnews.com. And this first one, I will kick it off with Black-Eyed Kids back in the news.
Yeah. I've been waiting for them to come back.
Yeah. Well, they're back. They're back.
Just in time for Halloween, I say.
I just read articles last week, a few articles online about this. So, hey, I'm fascinated to hear this.
Tell us more, Jason.
Excellent. The mysterious black-eyed children of mythical lore are back in the news again, as shared in the video. And you'll have to go to the website to check out the video. Who are these children that often appear on one's doorstep without warning. Often called demons and even children of Satan, websites such as Snopes have attempted to debunk their existence, only to see the legend come back stronger than ever. As each new black-eyed kid sighting adds to the saga, called the most terrifying creatures of 2013, black-eyed kids have gone viral across America. It's a pretty good bet that no creature terrifies people more in 2013 than the black-eyed kids, and with good reason. Encounters with the spooky children have grown from a creepy tale whispered about an internet message board to a major plot point in Hollywood films. Beginning the questions are the BEKs, the new Bigfoot. While that remains to be seen, the stories of personal run-ins with the black-eyed kids keep racking up in our inbox and our nightmares. And that's all I have, really.
Wow.
So it's pretty interesting.
It's
the black-eyed
now,
kids coming back.
I love those movies. They are super creepy. I mean, sometimes I'm pretty sure that the kids have those black eyes when we're not around, you know. And, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
what do you think?
I think any child is a minion of the Antichrist, personally.
I mean, and you've got, what, 3 of those little suckers running around over there?
I got a couple of them running around. Great.
You know, and, yeah, I've got cats like that in my house, so, you know, that alone is creepy.
Yeah.
How many cats do you have?
Wow, jeez. Now I have to admit this on the air. Damn it, Nicole. I'm a fucking cat. Oh, my God. Me too. I'm a fucking cat lady. It's out there
I am
now.
too.
Everyone knows. All right.
I have them too. I have 5. In fact, a lot of times when I do radio shows, 1 or 2 of them comes in and starts yowling, and suddenly they appear on the show.
I knew I liked you, Nicole. All right, now we're going to share cat pictures on Facebook.
All
right, it's on.
It's on.
Okay, now everybody knows it's out. It's there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure they have black eyes. I'm pretty sure that they have black eyes too. Yeah, I actually did just name one of them Maleficent because every time I try to get near her, she goes like lashes out at me. So,
no!
Yeah, I just rescued her from outside. She's gonna stay outside though. Yeah, I can't touch her.
She needs some TLC. That's all she needs.
Yeah. She's just going to stay outside. She's just an outside cat. She's a stray cat, but I'm considering her to be my stray cat.
There you go. There you go. The bond will be made.
That's all. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jason, do you like those movies with the black-eyed kids? I dig them. I think they're fun.
They're interesting, but people tend to now think that they're real-life existing type of people.
They do. I mean, they really do. And, you know, that's what happens. The urban legend starts, and, you know, people get scared. And, I think especially kids, you know, I mean, think about your little girls. And I remember when my daughter was younger, too, like remember when The Ring came out? My daughter was in middle school when that came out. She was sure that was real, you know. That's some scary, you know, that is some scary stuff. And if she had seen anything about the black-eyed kids at that time, she would have been very nervous around Halloween that maybe they were going to come knocking on the door. Or if I would have threatened that they were going to come out of the closet, she would have been afraid that was real. I mean, I haven't seen them. You know, I can't say whether they're real or not. I mean, if Snopes can't prove that they're not real, who knows? You know, who am I to say that they're real or not?
I have a theory.
What's your theory?
You know, last week I was having trouble falling asleep at night, which is usual because my mind keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah.
That's another story, but I was reading several articles on the black-eyed kids, and I discovered one article, and I forget the exact year, but it was I want to say 1995, 1994, when the first person admitted their experience of having an encounter with these so-called kids.
Oh, wow.
It was Everett, I forget his name off the top of my head, but I remember reading this, and then ever after that, and after that time period, after that first initial post of an experience with the black eyed on the internet, ever since then, other stories started to sprout up. So I'm wondering if this phenomenon is some sort of, like, not polka, but, you know, how thought forms can be created. So I'm wondering if it's, you know, kind of like not a forced haunt, but one of those situations where you have a bunch of people putting in psychokinetic energy into the phenomenon, and then all of a sudden you have 100,000 people saying, oh, yes, I've experienced them, and I've seen them, and whatnot.
Yeah, I have a theory, too.
I could believe that. Yeah. That's a possibility, for sure. I could definitely believe that.
I've got the complete opposite theory. This is what I think. You know that the whole emu movement is moving on? I think young teenagers are going out and convincing their parents they're buying black contacts.
Oh, sure.
That's what people are saying.
I see them in the mall. I see them for sale in the mall, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
You never know. You know? Never know. It's odd. It is really odd.
Creepy. Yeah, I have seen them for sale in the mall. The purple contacts, and the white ones, and I like the werewolf contacts. I think those are really cool. I actually thought about picking up a pair. It's kind of yeah, they're fun. Yeah, it could be that the kids are just putting those on and, you know, going out to creep people out, and then they stand there and act creepy like zombies or put pale makeup on, and but, you know, who knows what how this originally sort of started, you know, before you could buy black contacts anywhere. You know, there had to be something that happened, you know. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's weird. We'll have to. I'd be interested to see that story, though, Nicole. If you know where that kind of originated.
I'll find it. And I actually read another website with another guy's story, and apparently he went camping and had a few experiences with these so-called kids. There were two of them, and what I've read is that the black-eyed kids, there's always at least two that come forward. One's the spokesperson, and the other kind of stays in the back. And with his experience, there were two boys, and his first encounter was at a restroom, and then he was going camping. So after he had left the restroom, he traveled several miles to the campsite, and yet the kids appeared before him. So he thought to himself, there's no way in the amount of time it took me to drive to this particular campsite. How would they have gotten there in that time, and how would they have known exactly where I was unless they were following me? And he made sure that they weren't following him. So, I mean, I don't know. You know, is it a hoax? I don't know. You know, it's weird. Just one of those weird phenomenons out there, and, you know, so.
No.
That is weird. Yeah, I totally like to read that. Yeah, we could always post one of those stories, too, maybe on the fan page. There might be some other people that want to read more about that. Okay. Well, and then I see our next story. This is cool. You know, I always really liked dragons. I really always have. I like that time period. I love movies about dragons. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the story is dragon's mummy was discovered in the Carpathian Mountains. Proof that dragons actually existed. And there's photos and videos, and this is from now, you know, Monday, September 15th, 2014. And Dragon's World, you know, fantasy made real, myths and legends of dragons, you know, fictional stories of prehistoric dragons described as the story of the natural history of the most extraordinary creature that never existed, but that could have existed. It poses the theoretical evolution of dragons from the Cretaceous period up to the 15th century and theories about what dragon life and behavior might have been like if they had existed and evolved. It uses the premise that the ubiquity of dragons in the world mythology suggests that dragons could have existed. They are a species that are a scientifically feasible, you know, and they could have evolved, although they did not. The program switches between two different stories, and the first one uses CGI to show the dragons in their natural habitat throughout history, and then the second shows the story of a modern-day scientist at a museum, a Dr. Tanner, who actually he does believe in dragons. So when the frozen remains of an unknown creature was discovered in the Carpathian Mountains, Tanner and two colleagues from the museum undertake the task to examine the specimen to try to save his reputation. So once they were there, they actually discovered that the creature is a dragon. So Tanner and his colleagues set about working, they're trying to work out how it lived and how it died. And they actually have on this website, there are full videos. And what they're saying is that at last they've actually found skeletal remains of, what appears to really be skeletal remains of a real dragon. They're saying at last, a fantasy made real. So in his office, Dr. Tanner studies photographs taken of a new discovery at Romania. Several human corpses that were dated from the Middle Ages were found in a cave in the Carpathian Mountains, while some straying skiers were being rescued. And along with the bodies found in a cave, again in the Carpathian Mountains, along with the bodies, a carcass of an unidentified animal was discovered. The Romanian authorities asked the museum to investigate this find, and most of the professors at the museum, really, they just want nothing to do at all with this specimen. So Tanner asks if he can go on behalf of the museum, and the museum agrees, and Tanner prepares to travel to Romania under one condition, that if it is a hoax, if they're fucking with him, he wants to leave immediately. But if it's something that he's interested in, that he really wants to investigate and try to, restore, and work with, it can't be in Romania. He wants the body of the specimen immediately shipped back to London so he can work with it there. So I guess they agreed to it, because Tanner, along with two associates, arrived in Romania to discover the remains have been moved off the mountain. Tanner wonders what evidence may have actually been lost in the process. He really didn't want it moved. He wanted to examine it, where they found it. The three scientists enter the shed where the carcass is being housed.
So that's why I like this story, because, I like dragons too, but it does look like
I love them.
The word dragon.
I'm kind of excited about this because I really, really love dragons. I even watch the kids' dragon movies, like the Dragon Tales and How to Tame Your Dragon, and I'll go see the second one. I really love dragons, so I think it's really neat. So after the initial analysis, Tanner notes that the creature has a scaly hide and a tail, which suggests that it's a reptile, but it also has wings and foot talons. Isn't that crazy? And it has characteristics of powered flight. So when he finds the wings, he wonders, can this creature really fly? Or is its wingspan too small to allow flight? We don't know for sure. After further investigation, Tanner finds that the bones of the creature have a honeycomb structure, which would definitely allow for flight. It's hollow but strong. Internal scans of the creature show a huge heart, which is needed to pump really oxygen-rich blood through to the chest muscles, which would be during really hard work for it to be able to, flap, to pump, these wings, and two bladder-like structures. Tanner suggests that they could actually be gas bladders. The gas contained would be hydrogen, which is lighter than air. This is so crazy. So this would be to give the creature extra lift. He tells his associates that the creature has everything needed for flight, but he also thinks that maybe they don't add up. Let's see. Back in the Cretaceous, 2 weeks after the flight with the T-Rex, the mother dragon is dead, having succumbed to infection. The starving juvenile must now teach itself to fly, while evading the scavengers seeking to feed on its mother's body at present. Let's see, only to petasaurs. More dangerous creatures will come. This is just about, dragon behavior. I wanted to see what else they could tell about this carcass. They're saying that he inspected the mouth of the creature and said it was a carnivore, but he also noticed molars and he wondered about the purpose in a carnivore. He said that this creature had a fleshy palate at the back of the throat, and he wondered if that could have been used to prevent backdrafts from fire. Oh, that's crazy. Come on. He wants to see if it was a fire-breathing dragon. He's killing me with this. Isn't that wild? I think that's so wild.
What other criteria did he use to, I mean, do they have a list of criteria that the remains would need to meet in order for it to be classified as an actual dragon?
I mean, he's going, you've got to go on this website. I'm sure Jason will post this on our fan page. When you look at this, Nicole, you'll see, like, all the actual pictures of the carcass, and you'll see, like the man standing next to it. He's going through it, like, piece by piece by piece, trying to explain, like, what he's comparing it to and what he thinks about each piece of evidence, why he thinks it would work. But he doesn't go through every single. I don't know that there's an exact criteria because they've never actually found anything like this before. So what he's basically, he's trying to compare it to. Yeah, he's trying to. No, it's okay. He's trying to compare it to, like, he'll say, the bombardier beetle can emit liquid at a temperature of 200 degrees Celsius. So he's theorizing that dragons breathing fire is biologically possible, or you know what I mean.
I don't see that. All nature, well, humans, more living creatures, they all produce, gases that is flammable, and it's methane gas. We all produce it. We thought that is flammable.
Oh, yeah.
A dragon could, I mean, it is quite possible that it could, well, I'm not saying that it's possible, but, for it to evolve in such a way where, that methane gas could be blown outside of its mouth. Sure, I could see it blowing, fire, but the question is, it would need some kind of source of igniting it.
Right. So when you go through it, he's definitely going through every single thing. Like, the tail is this way, so it suggests that it could be a reptile. He's trying to compare it to different things. And there's a couple of different videos on the page as well. They're fascinating pictures. The website that this is featured on for everybody is called Before It's News. So beforeitsnews.com/paranormal. And it's actually on today's news. Dragon's mummy was discovered in the Carpathian Mountains. So, it's cool. And the pictures are really neat. I mean, it really looks like a dragon. It's huge. There's a man standing next to it. And I hope to hear more about this story. I'm going to be really interested. I hope we get a follow-up to this to see what else they kind of find out about it. I don't think they just really have much else to compare it to. It's really something new.
Yeah, that's the downfall, I think. Yeah, I think that's the downfall. If they had something similar to compare it to, then it would be much easier to classify it. And, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to look at the reptiles and dinosaurs, and that's pretty neat. So did you believe in dragons, Nicole? What do you think?
I don't know. When I was a kid, I don't think I was really ever that fascinated with dragons as a kid, other than yes. But, I mean, hey, you know what? I think it's healthy to have an open, skeptical mind about things. You never know. You never know what exists. So, I mean, it's crazy. When you were reading this and talking about it, I was like, oh, my goodness. Really? And I was going through my mind, like, oh, my gosh, this is probably a hoax and all that. But, I mean, you know what? If they found the remains and they're starting to examine it, and it's different from other types of carnivore skeletons found, I mean, yeah, maybe the possibility does exist.
We did have dinosaurs that were massive size that took flight.
Right.
Could that be classified as a dragon as well? Sure, I would say. I mean, if it has a similar characteristic.
Yeah.
I mean, to sit down and say that dragons, 100% can't exist. I mean, that's kind of stupid to think that. But I think it's possible that, at one time there could have been some dragons, whether or not they breathed fire or, shot fucking nails out of his mouth or whatever. Probably not. You know what I mean? Probably not. But,
right.
Yeah, I think it is possible that, dragons could have existed at one time.
Yeah, see, I do too. I mean, I think it's kind of, I think it's healthy to have that open-minded, like I said before, skepticism. I think, who are we to sit there and say, oh, no, that never existed? I mean, that's pretty egotistical of us, right? So I think it's healthy to be open-minded about things like this. So
that's pretty neat. Wow,
yeah.
I hope it did breathe fire. That would be really cool.
That would be cool. I do love the dragon and Spreaker, though, I will say.
I do. I love how to train your dragon. I love that one. With the cartoon. I happen to love that. But I love all. I've always loved dragons. I love them all. I just always have. Wow.
Awesome.
And then we have one more cool story. I guess Jason's going to cover one more good one here.
Off because we've already taken up a little more time than what's necessary.
Okay.
I've got like 2 minutes left, you know what I mean? So we can cut the last story off, and we'll just, kick it off with the wonderful interview with this wonderful guest and her experience.
Yay!
I wanted to make a comment too, back when you were introducing me on the show, I want to say that there are many people out in the United States, specifically in the Southern California region, that have spent many years and many hours on the Queen Mary, investigating and researching its history, gathering paranormal data and that sort of thing. So, I don't want to classify myself as being the only person to do that, because that would be false. There are many people that have put in a lot of time. So, but I'm considered one of those people. I mean, the history is just amazing. I mean, it goes beyond the fact that she's, listed in the top 10, one of the top 10 most haunted spots in the world. Goes beyond her paranormal activity. She's just wonderful, full of history. It's just, I tried to explain this in my book, my first book, The Haunted Queen of Thieves, about the Queen Mary, and I don't think any amount of written word could really accurately describe what I feel. It's just, there's such a special spiritual aura around the ship, and it draws people in. And, she draws people into her mysticism. I feel that all ships have a soul, and I do feel in many ways that the Queen Mary herself, the ship itself, is alive and can speak to us. So, it's, I've had amazing times on the vessel. So.
Wow. I would love to come out and see the Queen Mary. I've been in California. I've been there many times, many times for work. I've traveled over to California, but I've never had the opportunity to come onto the ship. And it's so funny, guys. But I was talking to actually my dad, who's 77 years old today, and I was saying that Nicole was coming on the show, and we were going to be speaking to her about the Queen Mary and paranormal activity that happens there. And my father says to me, first of all, my father was in the Navy. And then he says to me, and he's a landscape architect and irrigation designer, which has nothing to do with anything, but he says, oh, the Queen Mary, oh, yeah. I spent the night on that ship 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
I've been all through that ship. I've been all through the engine room and every single inch of that ship many times. In fact, I've been so drunk, I peed right off the back of that thing. Oh, yeah.
So when did he stay? Was he
apparently he's several times. He's stayed over the years. He's been back there several times for different different things, different people, and I was just surprised. I had no idea he had even ever heard about the Queen Mary. The things that you learn.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, well, you should really listen. I was like, you should really listen in. So I don't know if he's out in his office. I don't know I'm staying at their house tonight because I'm in the process of moving, and my stuff isn't even at the house that I rented yet. But I was like, you should really listen in tonight because there's some really creepy things that happen aboard the Queen Mary that you probably don't even know about. It's going to be great. So I hope that he's listening. And apparently
I do
his mother.
Too. I would love to talk to him more about his experiences. I'm always hearing about people's experiences.
Yeah. So I hope so. I hope so too. And I told her that we were going to have some recordings of things that happened there and visitors that were probably there that he had no idea were present. So I can't wait to hear all about it. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Excellent. So, well, why don't you first tell us how did you even get involved in the paranormal and share some of your stories that you've had before you even started doing the Queen Mary.
Oh, sure. Try not to be too long, but I've been asked this question many times, and I have to say that I feel that I was born into the field. I feel that ever since I was a child, starting around the age of 2, I started having experiences with the spiritual world. My grandmother, my mom's side of the family, so my maternal side has always been on, sensitive and they're intuitive, so I feel that I've inherited some of that. And even as a child, that helped me to have so-called experiences with the paranormal. I was born in Huntington Beach, California, which is about 30 minutes south of, about 20 to 30 minutes south of Long Beach. So I lived there for about a year and a half, and then my family and I moved to Vegas, and I'm an only child, so it's just my mom, dad, and I. And we moved to Vegas. My dad's a pharmacist. We got a job out there. So we moved into this house. It was a new tract home, style home. No structures had been built before it, that sort of thing. And so we moved in, and about a year later, I started having interesting experiences. And I remember one night, I don't know why I remember this so clearly, but I do. I was standing outside in our backyard with my mom and dad, and we had a pool in the backyard, and we were standing out there, and I saw this kind of dark, gray, shadowy human form float by. And so I remember pointing to it as a young child. I must have been like 3 at the latest. I remember pointing to it, and I remember saying, "Mommy, look at the grass." I mean, I don't know why I used the word grass. I have no idea. I mean, to this day, why I even, that word for a 3-year-old is not a word that a 3-year-old knows. So they didn't see it, and then any future experiences that I had in the home, I had a so-called imaginary friend, if you will. It was a gentleman from the 1800s, full rush era, that would appear. Very nice gentleman, obviously was not a so-called imaginary friend. It was real to me. And numerous other experiences in the home, but, my parents were, it's not that they weren't open to it, but they didn't have the experiences that I had. So fast forward several years, I'm in middle school, 7th, 8th grade. I started reading as many articles and, what I could get my hands on. And, before that, around that time, we didn't have the internet and, a lot of things weren't written at that time, but I would try to get whatever I could get my hands on.
Sure.
So then, high school, again, still studying it. I had and so then while I was at the University of Arizona, this was in 2000, so I was senior year, and I get a call from my mom saying that grandma passed away. Was devastated, of course, and went to San Diego for the funeral. All of my family's from San Diego. So I attended the funeral and flew back to Tucson, where the U of A is, and continued on with my studies. And for the next, I would say about a week after the funeral, I started having very odd experiences in my apartment that weren't present prior. And at first, I didn't know what to make of them, but I heard the front door knob rattle of its own volition. I heard the door knock on my bedroom door rattle at times. And, I would just dismiss it. I was busy with my studies and whatnot. And then one night I was reading in bed and I felt a hand press my face. And what was interesting about it is it felt very eerily familiar to me, as if I've felt that hand before. And so the next night, again, as I was studying in my bedroom, I saw this glowing almost figure out of my peripheral vision, kind of standing over near where my closets were. And so I looked over, and at first, shock ran through my body when I first saw this. And I looked over and I saw the apparition of my grandmother standing. She was a little bit younger, about 10 years younger. And she was wearing the favorite flowery house dress that she always wore. It was blue and white.
Oh.
And she was almost lit from behind, and she didn't say anything. It lasted maybe about 2 seconds, and then she faded. But I kept having this experience for about a week and a half for the next 2 weeks. And I didn't know what to make of it, so I told my mom about it. And that's when my mom and I decided to have a talk with her and just, talk to her spirit and say, the family's okay, everyone's doing okay. And I told her I'm doing okay. And I said, and my mom did as well. And we told her, you're free to move on. You're free to go where you need to go. And after we had that talk with her, the experience was stopped. And so today, when I think about it and I look back, I don't know what to make of it. I feel in my heart that she wasn't sure yet of whether or not she could move on. That's why she kept making her appearances, and she just needed that confirmation from us, letting her know that everything's okay, you're free to move on. So I feel that now she is a spirit. I don't feel she's her sound. I feel that she has moved on to where she needs to go. And this experience is what catapulted me into wanting to get out into the field and investigate and participate in paranormal investigations. So the rest is history. So I've been doing investigations since, the early 2000s. I've worked with several different Southern California-based teams, and I've always wanted to have my own team, and that's when in 2009 I formed the San Diego Paranormal Research Society, and the rest is history. So it's just, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever be as lucky as I was to have an experience of that magnitude again. It's just something that occurred, and, I'm grateful for it. It almost solidified my innate passion for studying the paranormal.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, never say never. You can always have another crazy experience. Right. I mean, for sure, I've had quite a few, and just when you think nothing crazy is going to happen, you just never know. I mean, clearly you're sensitive to it, and who knows?
Yeah, I've had experiences before that, of that
was special,
involving a family member like that.
Oh, yeah, that was really special.
Yeah, and I have a relationship with my grandmother. I was always close with her when she was alive, and I have a relationship with her when she's spirit. She's spirit now, so I do have a relationship with her, and she does come and visit every once in a while with her spirit. So
yeah. Oh, that's great.
Excellent. Now, when did you start doing business with the Queen Mary?
Oh my gosh, interesting. While I was attending the University of Arizona, it was spring break in our junior year, so this was, 1999-ish, and my best friend and I decided to take a cruise on our spring break. So, of course, we come back to California. We're both from Southern California. And next to the Queen Mary is a Carnival Cruise Line port there, so a lot of cruise ships, Carnival cruise ships take off right next to the Queen Mary. So, I drove up. We both, this was spring break, and I drove to my friend's mom's house in Huntington Beach and spent the night. And the next day, she drove us to the Carnival cruise port there, and we boarded the ship. And we were ready to take off, and it was a 3-day cruise to Mexico in Catalina, and the day at sea. So it was really short cruise, but very fun. So I remember driving by. It was 1999. I remember driving by and passing the RMS Queen Mary on our way toward the cruise, and I just remember being in the back seat of the car, and I just looked at the ship, and the first words that I thought were, "I will be back here someday."
Wow.
Okay, so fast forward, to about 2005-ish. That's when I want to say, 2005, late 2005, 2006. And, of course, I said I would be back, and I was back, and I remember taking that first step from the gangway to actually stepping on A deck, which is where the hotel lobby is located. And I just remember the minute I stood for the first time on that ship, it was just the most amazing feeling that went through my soul. I can't explain it. I just felt like I had been there before. I felt that I belonged there. Everything, it's almost, I don't know how to describe it without sounding weird. It's almost like if you're open to it and you're open to the ship's spiritual aura, you can walk on the ship, and then it almost, when you're on the ship, it opens yourself up more to the spiritual world, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And that was the first time that I stepped foot aboard, and I spent the night with some friends and had some amazing experiences, and the rest is history. So since then, I've been doing a lot of investigations on the ship in various areas of the ship. I've researched the history at length, not only for writing my book on the Queen Mary, but just so I could be thoroughly knowledgeable about the ship's history. So, and I've met some incredible people along the way who also share a cohesive passion for the ship like I do. And before I forget, one of those people I do want to mention is a very good friend of mine. His name is Matthew Schultz. He is the founder of Terra Explorer Project, which is a North County, San Diego-based paranormal team. And he actually does the late-night weekend paranormal investigation tours of the ship. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. And Friday and Saturday start at 11, Sunday starts at 10, and his tours are always sold out. They're just very popular. He has repeat guests all the time, and it's an amazing way to acquire some history about the ship and to learn about the hauntings and various spirits on board. So I do recommend for any of you that are traveling to Southern California and you want to stay on the Queen Mary, it's a must that you book this tour. So I wanted to, before I forget, make sure that I mention that. But, I'm lucky. I've met some very incredible or very close friends that, share a passion for what I do and share a passion for the Queen Mary. So it's been great.
Now, how many people can book on that tour at the same time, and how often do they offer that?
You can go on queenmary.com, queenmary.com, and find information about the different tours.
Okay.
They have some other tours as well, but specifically for the late night weekend paranormal investigation tours, they're Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. Again, Friday and Saturday nights are at 11 p.m. And then Sunday nights start at 10. So, he's had as many as, around 10 to up to 35 people.
Okay.
I know around the Halloween season they're going to be very, they're already selling out for October 31st and November 1st.
Oh, sure.
So, let me see if I can I'll pull up the exact website there.
I just thought people might want a little more information on that.
Right. So I'm going on queenmary.com right now, and going under.
Now, I would love to go personally. I don't know what Jason feels about things like that. I would love to go when there's less people going. You know what I mean? I would love to go when there's only like 8 people going or 10 people going, and spend the night on the ship, and I really just dig it and check it out. And I like when there's less interference and contamination.
Oh yeah, I do too. And I've been on the ship, staying overnight, and also conducting investigations on both occasions when the ship is has only a few guests staying on board versus at a very popular time where, during, for example, Dark Harbor, which is the ship's annual Halloween event that lasts for about a month. So I've been, on both occasions, and, I found that you can get acquire some really interesting paranormal experiences and or evidence or data both ways. And the more people that are on the ship, the more the energy is accentuated, and that could lend for more experiences. But like I said, I've had experiences on off-season nights.
Really?
Like having probably less than 100 people staying on board. So it just depends. But I agree. I think that with the smaller crews, you get a little bit more out of it. There's less chance for human contamination and all that. But I've been on this tour. I've been lucky to be a guest on this tour a few times, and it's great whether there's 8 people or 35 people. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's good to know. I'm going to try it.
I will post the actual website into, I guess, should I post it on Ghost Chat Radio?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so this is the actual website that talks about his specific tours. Not tours. I'm going to copy that, and it'll be up on the Ghost Chat Radio Facebook page right here.
Great.
There it is. Okay.
I just like to go to the traffic by myself on a whole night.
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's get over there.
What's interesting, too, is, people, they want to investigate popular areas like the former first and third class pool and the engine room and the boiler room, the isolation ward. But, I recommend people that are staying overnight, investigate your stateroom.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Your stateroom.
Yeah. That's what I would do. I want to spend the whole night and really just sort of quietly investigate a part of the ship. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
What happens.
Any area on that ship is fair game, in my opinion.
Okay.
There's a question, I don't know, probably about 10 minutes ago in the chat room. That's how I want to know if you ever gotten any EVPs of old military soldiers from World War II.
That's interesting. I've acquired several different EVPs in various areas of the ship, also AVPs or disembodied voice captures as well. It's very hard to say whether or not it's specifically from the World War II era. I know that I have had a few ITC results, instrumental transcommunication results, using, like the Spirit Box and the former Radio Shack half and the envelopes and that sort. Those types of devices where a specific question was asked, this is for the, soldiers that traveled on the Queen Mary during World War II. If any of you are present, can you tell us your names? And I've, captured names before. Whether or not, I have proofs that they're coming from, soldiers, it's hard to say. But I do believe that, and a lot of people have had, I would say mostly residual encounters of World War II soldiers on the ship. One such encounter occurring in various areas of the vessel, and where people hear and these are the hotel decks, like hotel, which are A deck, M deck, and B deck. So those M deck, A deck, and B deck from top to bottom. And a lot of people will hear late at night, almost like a marching, like a bunch of footsteps in unison with each other. And I've heard this from different visitors to the ship on different occasions, that they would open their stateroom door and they would see to the left and to the right down the very long hallway corridors, and they would see Stanton soldiers walking along the deck in uniform. So that's one such encounter.
Now, have you been able to determine what era these uniforms are from?
Well, I haven't actually personally had an experience where I've actually seen a soldier clear enough where I could determine what rank he was, or what country he came from. But I know that some people have been able to tell whether or not they were American versus Australian and that sort of thing. So, but I mean, if I ever have an encounter, where I actually see a uniform very close up, I mean, I would make sure, stocking and everything, color and, according to, I'm not really familiar with the different rankings and that sort of thing, but, I've never had such an encounter where I've been able to be like, oh my gosh, yes, that uniform was from Australia and blah, 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 blah. But I know other people have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Another residual encounter, too, I wanted to mention, back in 1942, the Queen Mary was painted gray, and had an alias by the name of the Grey Ghost during World War II, and Hitler had a reward out to any skipper of any U-boat that could sink the Queen Mary. He would be awarded $250,000, and back during that day, that's a lot of money to any skipper who could sink her. And of course, obviously, the Queen Mary was never sunk. She prevailed, but she was a target. She was a target, and in 1942, it was October of 1942, when the Queen Mary was sailing in a zigzag motion, and the reason why she was sailing in that zigzag motion was to try to avoid U-boats. So one of her escort ships, the British World War I light cruiser, the HMS Curacao, there was a miscalculation, and by, I believe, the captain of the Curacao, and as the Queen Mary and the Curacao were going on this zigzag motion through the ocean, there was a collision between the Curacao and the Queen Mary, which caused the Queen Mary to slice in half the smaller ship. Over 300 British sailors died as a result.
Oh, wow.
There was some damage. Yeah, there was some damage to the hull of the ship, but it was fixed. But there's a phenomenon that has been heard and felt for many years, where people down into the farthest forward area of the ship can experience surprise, and we shout out some dying sailors, help me, that sort of thing, and they can hear them screaming and that sort of thing. So it's really sad. Yeah. And I've experienced this a few times, even though it's hard for your heartstrings.
There's another question in the chat room. It says, other than the flooding in the 60s, any other major tragedies happened aboard the ship?
Other than what in the 60s are they referring to? Repeat that one more time.
It says, other than the flooding in the 60s, any other major tragedy happened aboard the ship?
I'll start by saying there was during Captain Killingsworth, one of the captains during World War II. During his time on the ship, there was a fire that occurred on B-deck, but it was successfully put out. No one needed to abandon ship or anything like that. So there was a fire There was also in 1966, and this particular spirit is one of the most popular spirits on board the Queen Mary. Many people probably heard about him. His name is John Petter. Now, John Petter was a fireman, a cleaner that was originally assigned to boiler room, I believe boiler room number 3 and 4. And he had gone on 3 other voyages with the Queen Mary prior to his death. And I believe he started to work on the Queen Mary March 30th of 1966. So he was an 18-year-old crewman who, on the particular, I think it's voyage 483, the actual number, he was assigned to the engine room, not the forward engine room, but the actual engine room. And he was somehow seen, I don't think there were any witnesses that saw what actually happened, but he was found in watertight door number 13 in the shaft galley's starboard side of the ship. He was found standing vertical, bleeding from different orifices of his body, and he was found to have crushing injuries and died later in the ship's hospital. So a lot of the tour guides on the ship have, I don't know where this rumor started, but they talk about John Petter and how he was playing a game of chicken, with other crew members going through watertight doors to see if they could, escape the doors in time before the doors would shut. So that's a rumor.
I think I heard that. I think I heard that actually.
Have you gotten any evidence from entities, any EVPs, or discussed that during specific sessions? Have you gotten K2 hits or something that suggests that?
Absolutely. If I could just finish with John Petter really quick, I want to dispel this whole game of playing chicken. Crew members were trained very thoroughly, and it just does not. I mean, both Matt and I have had this discussion too many times. It's very unlikely that any crew member would have been so stupid enough to have been playing a game, in such tight conditions. So chances are John Petter, maybe dropped a tool or slipped and fell and couldn't get out of the doors in time. And unfortunately, he died in July of 1966. So he's one of the most popular sectors on board. And he interacts with guests most commonly in the engine room, but he's been known to be in other areas of the ship. So obviously, as far as EVPs and different types of evidence, in my opinion, the ship seems to be very audio friendly. So I find that a lot of people capture Class A, Class B EVPs, disembodied voices. Pretty much any type of evidence, can be captured on the Queen Mary. But in my opinion, it's very audio friendly. So, and
cool.
Environmental meters, EMF, EMF detectors, temperature measurement devices. Sometimes it's hard to get a real accurate reading sometimes because of, the electric wires running through the ship. So it's still functioning. It's functioning as a hotel and tourist attraction. So a lot of times people do get false positives in terms of EMF and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, in terms of EVP and audio captures, definitely it's audio rich for sure.
Excellent. Now, how many people have you actually had a conversation with, or I guess you can say collected, testimonies that have, been on the ship while it was a working, Navy base?
I haven't actually talked to too many people that traveled on the ship during World War II. I've talked to a couple, but I've been able over the years to interview people that have stayed on board the ship from the late 1970s, 80s, 90s, up until the present time. So I've been able to talk to many people who have stayed on board and seems like there's a pattern of different activities. It seems based on those experiences, and specifically talking about the hotel deck.
Okay, so they're all hotel guests?
Well, a lot of them have been, either visitors to the ship, or they've stayed on board, or they've had family members that have traveled even back before her World War II days and after her World War II days. She was a luxury cruise liner. To travel, from Southampton, to New York City and back. So the North Atlantic route. So over the years, I've been able to have the fortunate experience of talking to many people. Not too many people that, in terms of war veterans or anything like that. I've talked to maybe two. But,
Now, Nicole, do you have some of those stories documented in your book? Just in case people were wondering if they wanted more, lengthy versions of some of those interviews. Do you have some of that in your book available?
I do, actually. One toward the end of the book, I have a section of tourist encounters on the ship from the late 1970s to the present. So, of course, I, change names for confidential reasons, and I paraphrase what their stories are.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of interesting stories from various tourists, and as well, with my first book, with the Haunted Queen of the Sea, what I did is I tried to I braided the history with the paranormal, because, as we know, the two of Sister and the paranormal are like best friends. There's a kinship there. So I braided the in-depth history of the Queen Mary along with her paranormal side. So it's more like an overview. So the paranormal section gives a basic overview of the hauntings on the ship, with a few encounters from colleagues of mine that have spent time on the ship as well, and then also having that section of various visitors to the ship that have documented their encounters. I'm coming out with a new book on the Queen Mary, and this book is going to be more in-depth about the paranormal side of the ship. So it's going to include many more of my personal encounters and captured evidence, more colleague encounters, and just a lot more information about the various areas on the ship that are known to be hot spots, or more active than other areas, more information on the various popular spirits on board. So it's kind of like a sister book to my first book, The Haunted Queen of the Sea. So I should be getting that out, and then I'd say I was originally going to get it out in November, but I'm delayed a little bit, so it'll be around December. So.
Okay. A couple of people, someone wants to know in the chat room, are there actually, more like messages that you're getting from some of the spirits, or is it more just sort of, are you getting more like a word or two here and there? What do you mostly get from your personal experiences?
Oh my goodness, I would say first off that the Queen Mary is a combination of a visual and intelligent type of mind. If I had to put, and I want to say, I'm no expert at all. I don't believe that there are any experts in the paranormal. I consider myself a student of the paranormal.
Right.
And I'm no expert yeah.
We all are, absolutely. I agree.
Right. Yeah, me too. So obviously no expert on the Queen Mary. I mean, this is just based on years of me going there and the amount of, hours I've spent on the ship. So I would say I believe that it's slightly edging more toward intelligent types of hauntings as opposed to ritual, like maybe like 60-40. Some people may disagree with me, and that's fine. And again, like I said, I'm no expert. This is just based on opinion and experience.
Well, that's your personal experience. That's your personal experience. That's awesome, though. Cool.
Mm-hmm. I feel that, if you want to say messages, we have documented evidence from some of the very popular spirits on board, one of them being the famous spirit, little girl spirit, named Jackie. We have documentation from her. We also have some documentation of John Petter, specific questions asked of him.
Like what were some of, like, tell us some of the questions. I think some people want to know, like, what did you ask and what did he say? You know.
So, for example, like in the engine room, we usually, ask, one of the questions to be, John Petter, are you with us tonight? And we'll get responses of yes, or, let's see, I'm trying to think of another one. For example, I'm going to mention this. We've, Matt on his tours does a really interesting dowsing rod experience. Now, there's no proof with using metaphysical tools or even scientific tools that, yes, we're actually talking to the spirit that we're addressing. There's no proof of that, but there's been a pattern over the 2 years that has been developed where he used the dowsing rods on his tours to specifically communicate with John Petter. And we found a pattern where the rods do cross specific questions asked of him. For example, such as, are you 18 years old? If the answer is yes, and he crossed for yes. If not, keep the rods separated for no. And of course, the rods do cross for him answering, 18. John Petter was 18 when he passed away. With sessions like audio sessions, you ask a lot of the same standard types of questions, but it's good, on the Queen Mary to ask certain questions relating to the history. And I always make a point of doing this in my audio sessions, regardless of whether I'm on a ship or if I'm at another historical place or if I'm on a private residence investigation. I always ask questions pertaining to the history. And what I find, and I found this on the Queen Mary, is that by doing that, a lot of interesting responses occur when you ask historical questions. So a lot of historical questions can be in the form of yes-no questions, or, for example, I've asked this before. I said, where is the ship sailing to, Southampton or New York? And we get a response of New York. I've gotten New York a couple of times. When did one time I remember getting, or it wasn't my audio, but there was a colleague of mine, we asked, what year was the ship's maiden voyage? And we heard a response of 36 for 1936. So I find that specifically with the Queen Mary, when you incorporate not only your intuitive feelings, so when I do audio sessions, if I'm feeling something intuitive, even if the question seems, out of the ordinary, or like, why would she ask that? I asked it. Because in my opinion, it could be maybe the spirit's way of communicating with me, maybe trying to get me to ask questions so he or she can answer. So I find when you use your intuitive senses and you utilize historical types of questions on the script, you do get more answers. So,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I hope that,
No, that's good. No, that's good. Somebody wants to know also, like, do you ever ask them on the ship specifically, like, what do they want? Like the intelligent hauntings, what do they want? Or if they want help, or why they're still here, anything like that? Do you ever get any response to that?
Yeah, we do. I know myself. I can speak for myself, and I've been with others, too, that have investigated the ship with me. Yes, we do ask, is there anything that we can do for you? Please let us know. Is there a message that you'd like us to relay to one of your family members? We can.
That's always good.
Possibly help with that. I shy away, and most respected, or I should say respectable paranormal investigators shy away from asking questions regarding how did you die, where did you die?
Oh, yeah.
Where did we? So, no, those types of questions we don't ask. But, we do ask, regarding help, or if they'd like to give a message to a family member, that sort of thing. So, have we ever received a message? Like the question that I asked is, is there a message that you'd like one of us to relay to your family members? If so, can you please let us know? We've had responses of yes or no, but have I ever received a lengthy message to be delivered? No.
Not really. Okay. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
rarely does anyone.
Right.
How long has it been opened to the public?
It's off in 1967 in Long Beach, and I must say that so many areas around the world tried to bid to have the Queen Mary in their city. So of course, Long Beach won out, paid $3.45 million for the ship back in 1967. So she came. I want to say there's different dates, but I want to say December. I may have the day wrong. I want to say December 10th. 1967, but I have to check on the date. But I do know it was 1967 that she docked in Long Beach, and she's been open for many years now, and since the 70s. So as a hotel and tourist attraction, of course, over the many years, they've tried different types of, what am I trying to say here? I don't know what I'm saying, but over the course of the years, they've had different types of activities on the ship and that sort of thing. But currently, she is functioning hotel, tourist attraction. They have many types of activities on the ship, ranging from weddings to, different parties. It's a filming location for TV and film projects. They have many different types of retail stores on the ship for people, excellent award-winning restaurants, that sort of thing. They have different tours, those involving the paranormal, as well as they have a World War II history tour, that sort of thing. So they have many attractions now. I don't really know what's in store for the ship. I know, the news came out. I don't know if it reached you guys, but it's on Facebook now. People will be commenting about it, that they're going to be starting to consolidate all of the gift stores on the ship as of January 6th. So we have an entity coming in that will help manage all of the gift stores, because now some of them have been owned and operated by, non-employees, just
I did not know that.
Yeah, so if you, it's been released, like Lois had mentioned, so there's some changes in that regard, as far as the ship goes, it's pretty much whether you're a child, an adult, or an older individual, it has something for everyone. So, and then of course the paranormal side, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent. So, on average, how many investigators go in here throughout the year?
Oh, I don't have the exact amount. I know that they do allow paranormal investigations, and then, if the team wants to go in, they would need to inquire through management how to steer an investigation. And Matt Schultz, I know he chaperones on all of the investigations, which is great. He's a great asset to have for anyone that's interested in the history or the paranormal side of the ship. So I know that, I've done several investigations on board in various areas, such as, forward cargo hold, the pool, the engine room, the boiler room, staterooms, isolation ward, other types of areas. So I would say for anyone that's interested in having an official, thorough paranormal investigation, to just contact the ship and let them know what they want to do, So I'm pretty sure that the ship welcomes that, and, obviously they welcome things that are responsible and, respectable and that sort of thing, so.
The reason why I asked that is I was actually kind of curious if that has made an impact on the activity that happens there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, you can get groups that go in a lot over the course of many years, asking the same questions, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think that, patterns of activity could be developed through that. For example, certain spirits, intelligent spirits, being accustomed to certain investigators that go in. I'll say for myself that, spirits such as Jackie and John Petter are two examples of energies that know who I am, recognize when I'm there.
Sure.
So, it just depends. It really does. So.
I mean, how many spirits do you sort of regularly deal with, Nicole? Like you're saying, the ones that sort of recognize who you are and that, the sort of regulars, so to speak, that are there, that are always seem to be present.
I would say for me personally, Jackie, she's around 6 or 7 years old. She's very popular. She's all over the internet. There's a rumor somehow that her last name is Torin, T-O-U-R-I-N. I don't know where that was started. There's actually no forensic evidence at all that suggests that a girl by the name of Jackie passed away on the ship. So we don't really know her origins.
Okay.
But people that have spent time with her gotten to know her a little bit. She's very intelligent. She's very talkative. She's very friendly. She's very, very smart, very precocious, almost in terms of intelligence. I've seen her before, and she almost kind of resembles a little Shirley Temple, if you will. And I've seen her with a lot of other people before. After I've seen her, that I didn't know of, other people have seen her as well, claiming to have that same type of similar characteristic, kind of, similar to Shirley Temple. So her for sure. John Petter, there's an entity in the boiler rooms at 3 and 4. Again, he's not a confirmed death on the ship like John Petter is, but it's based on intuitive impressions and people having encounters with a specific entity. We think his name is John Henry or John. And then other types of energies that come forward, a lot of times we don't know who they are. We don't know if they've been a passenger, if they were a former crew member. I know that Captain John Treasure Jones and Captain Britton, both of them have been captains on the ship during the days. They have been spotted. Their operations have been seen. Again, certain World War II soldiers, that sort of thing. It's hard to know with those, with any type of soldier or World War II sightings, whether or not it's residual. In my experience, they've been more or less residual. There's an Italian prisoner of war that has been spotted in the pool area, as well as some other children in the former first and third class pool area that people have been known to communicate with. So, but I would say for me, the two that I feel I have a good rapport with, as many other people do as well, are Jackie and John Petter. John Petter is the only spirit on board the ship that has had a documented death on the ship.
Is he your favorite?
No.
No?
You know what, I don't really have favorites, so I would say, I enjoy interacting with them, and I also enjoy interacting with Jackie. Those two are probably the most popular spirits on board, that you can find on the internet and that sort of thing. So, fun-loving, John Petter loves his time on the ship. He seems to, he loves the attention he's getting. He seems to be happy there, so that's good. So that's happy. So.
We have a couple more questions in the chat room. We actually have a lot of questions in the chat room. First question. How many intelligent spirits have you found on aboard the ship?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Children, you said children, right?
All together.
Altogether, intelligent spirits.
You know, Peter James used to run tours on the ship, and he was very popular in terms of knowing about the ship's history and about the paranormal side. He once said that there's in excess of 600 entities on board the ship. So, in my opinion, I feel that is accurate, and maybe the chances is even more. There's alleged portals on the ship. One in the former first and third class women's stall area. There's said to be a portal in there. We all know what that is. Basically, a portal is a bridge from our world to the next. I feel that there's a possibility for others as well. I feel that the ship is such a hot spot for paranormal energy. If I had to try to explain it in lay terms, like for spirits, it would be like the most popular bar club to go to for the spirits. You know what I mean? Very popular. So I think the ship has entities and energies that come and go, pass through. And then you also have the residual type of phenomenon, and then you have the intelligent type of energies on the Queen Mary, and there are many. Again, I don't have that exact number, but I would say definitely in the hundreds for sure. Absolutely.
Now, the little girl that you said you don't know where she came from, do you have any suggestions as where she came? Maybe EVPs with an accent or anything that could lead you on?
Actually, you spoke of accents, so people that have heard her audibly, like myself, numerous times, and people that have captured EVPs of her, or even audible voice phenomenon captures, what have you, she does seem to have an accent. And I've always guessed that she's from some part of Ireland, perhaps. She does seem to have a little bit of an accent. Some people speculate that maybe she was on the Titanic, and back on the ship, on the Queen Mary's maiden voyage, they passed by the exact spot of the Titanic sinking, and they did a commemorative ceremony for the Titanic, and they laid out some flowers and wreaths and that sort of thing. So a lot of the intuitives feel that was the pattern for any stuck energies from the Titanic. They just sailed and went, transferred straight onto the Queen Mary. If the Queen Mary and the Titanic are often compared to one another. So, I mean, a lot of people feel, could she be from the Titanic? Or did Jackie have a relative or a brother and sister that sailed on the ship? And, maybe she's looking for that person. I mean, it's hard to say. Again, there's no forensic evidence by any means of a girl named Jackie or Jacqueline passing away on the ship. And passenger manifests, obviously, during the time, sometimes weren't accurately test. So, of course, when you look at the passenger manifest, most likely they're not all inclusive of who traveled on the ship. But there's no, to my knowledge, any such document that says the girl by the name of Jacqueline, age 6 or 7, traveled on the ship. So it's hard to say where she comes from.
Now, another question in the chat room. Do you feel that you're an empath? And if so, can you sense that particular portal that you were discussing?
That's a good question. I would say that yes, I am an empath. I am sensitive. I feel that being clairsentient or being an empath is my strong ability. I obviously no one has proof that there's a portal on the ship,
right,
or a few of them on the ship, but there are certain areas on the Queen Mary that seem to be high passageways for spiritual activity.
Right.
One of those areas is the former first and third class schools dressing stalls.
I've heard that.
I
have.
Right.
I saw that on television. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people go in there, and of course now it's known, so you have people, it's almost biased now. A lot of people know that what it's alleged of having. But even with that said, a lot of people going in there have odd experiences of vertigo, feeling kind of nauseous, getting a headache, that sort of thing, having a lot of physical manifestations. There's another area on the ship, in my experience, that is another, for some reason, seems to be a high traffic way for spiritual energy, and that is the, I want to say it's on V deck, and it's the aft side of V deck. There's a staircase there leading down to our deck, not too far from the pool. So that area, again, numerous EVPs, a lot of personal experiences, that sort of thing. But I think the ship, personally, in my personal opinion, I think the ship is such a, you know how moths are attracted to a flame? I think that, as moths are to the flame, spirits are to the Queen Mary. I feel that it has that ability to attract tons of spiritual energy. And while I say this, I want to say that in my opinion, I don't see anything evil, anything malevolent, any type of energy on the ship is there. I don't think, some people may say, oh, that.
That was a question. That was a question I had, so I'm glad that you...
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I know some people have asked, do you think there's demonic energy on the ship and malevolent energy? In my experiences, and the many times I've been on the ship, for pleasure, for paranormal investigation purposes, spending the night, first few nights on the ship, I have not sensed at all anything malevolent at all on the ship. Of course you have, maybe the silly types of, energies. Maybe they were, maybe they flew around in life, that sort of thing, so they might be, kind of playful, that sort of thing in death. But I would not say that there's anything malevolent or evil on that ship at all. So.
Well, that's great. That's got to be a good feeling, especially as often as you've been over there.
Like for me, other people may have sensed it, but for me, I don't think so.
Even with the television shows that I've seen covering the Queen Mary, I've never really heard anyone say, oh, there was a demon on the Queen Mary. Ooh, it was evil. That's why one of the questions that I did have was, has anybody ever really had an experience there that you know of where they felt like, not that Jason will laugh, I don't want to name any specific groups where someone always thinks they're possessed or, anything like that, but, or where they're tormented.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Where we're calling them out and saying, go ahead and touch me, and then suddenly I don't feel so well. I don't feel so well. I'm possessed. Oh, I got to sit down.
I think the ghost just had anal sex with me.
Yeah.
Oh,
and suddenly the ghost has been having sex with me. I'm floating. I've had sex. Oh, my God. I've never really heard anyone say that they've had these types of really bizarre experiences or terrifying experiences aboard the Queen Mary. So,
no, you're right. I would say...
great.
Oh, go ahead.
Which is great because I would like to spend the night on the Queen Mary all night, and so I would really not like these things to happen.
No. Yeah, no, I've never experienced any such thing, and I'll tell you right now, any investigative team that were to go investigate the ship, if they were to act goofy like that, and provoke and whatnot, they'd be kicked off.
Okay.
The ship doesn't tolerate that type of provoking or disrespectful type of investigating. I will say another odd phenomenon that a lot of people have had staying on the ship is they'll have like waking dreams. They'll have they're in that hypnagogic type of sleep state, and they'll dream of an entity on the ship. Maybe, I've heard, I talked to someone that had a dream of seeing a World War II soldier at the foot of her bed, and she wakes up, obviously, and she's awake. Of course she was dreaming that, but they have those types of experiences on board as well. I think, the ship has this ability to communicate with one's intuitive energy. So, and if people open up to her and hear the voice of the Queen Mary, they're going to tap into that type of energy. So.
Huh. Now, when you investigate the ship, and I'm sure you've done many investigations solo or with your specific team on a more private scenario, what kind of equipment do you typically use?
Oh, we use a lot of, video cameras, different types of audio recorders, still cameras, IR cameras, dowsing rods, pendulums. I don't use a lot of EMS. I don't use the K2 that much, but I mean in terms of, certain things like I have the a Nell meter, 704 meter. So,
I love the Nell.
Yeah. I
use it. I love it.
Equipment. Yeah, me too. I have the actual original one. So
me too.
First,
me too.
I love it. It works great. So, but along the lines of regular types of equipment, standard types that people use, like I said, the ship is so audio rich that I would rather have 4 audio recorders running than have, 4 video cameras running. Obviously, I shouldn't have said that. The video camera picks up audio, but it's so audio rich that I think the more audio-related equipment, the better you are. So. And then ITC types of equipment, ITC types of equipment, you don't get good reception in many areas of the ship. There's only a couple of areas on the ship where you can actually do a successful ITC session. So.
Well, what do you think is the most best piece of equipment to bring onto the ship if you were to recommend anything?
Oh my gosh. My specialty is in audio. I used to be EVC magnets, and I've gotten a lot of gotten, not even a word, I must be tired. Sorry about that. I've, had the fortunate opportunity to collect some interesting audio pieces from the ship. I know this may sound silly to some. I would say an audio recorder. I would say, video camera with audio, audio recorder, completely. That would be my opinion.
So that's your favorite piece of equipment, really, is pretty much your audio recorder? That's that's all you could take. That's your favorite piece, pretty much?
Yes, audio recorder.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, someone else could be like, oh my gosh, no, I want to bring my, full spectrum video camera. That's fine too, But for me,
no, everybody has some audio. It's so true.
Yeah.
We all have our favorite thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jason's favorite thing is his audio as well.
Absolutely. You can't go wrong with a little. I use my Olympus audio recorders, and I'm happy with that. There's a theory though that analog tape recorders, because of the film, the magnetic tape, that, and I read this a long time ago, that it's good to experiment with analog tape, because the spiritual energy can somehow emulsify it onto the tape strip, whether or not that's true or not. But I've worked with investigators. I've experienced with both digital text recorders and analog text recorders. So,
excellent.
For me, it's that little audio recorder. That's my love. I take it everywhere. So,
has anyone brought a Ouija board on the ship or anything like that?
I haven't, and the people that I have worked with consistently have not, but I do know of teams that have done that. So I do know of a SoCal-based team that has spent many years investigating the ship, and they have brought on a Ouija board. I actually was in the same stateroom with them on the night that they were using it, and I made a point of just not even paying attention to it. There's some controversy with the Ouija board. A lot of people feel like, I don't see the problem with using it, and other people feel like it could, open up some doorways that you don't want to visit. So I just play on the safe side. I don't incorporate any type of black magic on any investigations that I do. I just play it safe. So I don't know. What's your opinion on it?
I love them. I've been using them since I was a kid. So that's why I laugh. Jason knows too. Jason knows I'm probably sitting here laughing. It's just a board, Nicole. It's not black magic. It's a tool, just like a K2 or recorder. And I laugh when teens think that it's evil or it's black magic. It's not evil. The evil's in the person. It's in the intent of the person or the user. It's not the board. The board is just a thing, like a flashlight.
Well, that's true. I mean, let me say this. And you have a point. That's a very valid point. And it's true, the person operating the board or the person operating the video camera or the person operating the dowsing rod, what have you. Yes, if that person's not mentally stable, not emotionally stable, doesn't have experience investigating, and they were to go screw around, and, obviously, you get my point. Obviously, I think
of course
what they're doing
I do.
And have goodwill intent, then, maybe it works for some people. I'm not going to sit here and be like, that person uses the Ouija board. Oh no, because I want to keep my open mind. There's no wrong way to investigate unless it's something very disrespectful or you're doing something to harm yourself or your team or the location. But I mean, I want to be as open minded as possible. So if it works well for you, that's awesome.
I mean, Jodi knows I've actually been spending a while now, not using Ouija boards on investigations, but experimenting with it. Because I wanted to get down to the facts of whether or not, if it is a gateway to some kind of other realm that we can't see. So,
that's good that
and I'll share this experiment with you. No problem. I've gone out, I went to Toys R Us and I bought a Ouija board. And the first thing I did was open it up and I put it on my bed, and I put a camera on it, and I went away for the night and just let it go. And I did this several different times. And when I came back and watched the video, nothing happened. The pancetta did not move at all. So someone said, well, you have to energize it. Okay, so I put an EM pump on it. I did. I'm not asking. I put an EM pump on it and put a camera on it and went away for a night. And did this several times, and several times, same results. Not a damn thing happened.
I'm sure.
And some idiot said it needs human contact. It said I took it out of the fucking box, and I touched it.
Did you sit there? Yeah.
So I mean, it goes to show that it's viable proof that it needs human interaction. In which case, it's not the board; it's the human messing up.
It's the energy.
This
is a whole other conversation. It's a whole other conversation, but it's all about the energy. And to what Nicole would say, people don't know how to use it, and people that are not experienced and that are afraid, they shouldn't use it. They shouldn't. I fully agree. I absolutely agree with that.
Let me say this, okay? Let's say you have two people. You have one that's operating the board, and you have another person that's using like 2 or 3 audio recorders. Let's say both people were emotionally and mentally unstable, have no experience investigating, started provoking the spirits, disrespecting locations, whether or not they're using the board or whether or not they're using the audio recorder. They're both going to send out an equal opportunity to open up negative doors.
Right.
You're right.
So,
I think one, the weakest one is going to bear more chance of getting injured.
Yep.
I mean,
they're opening themselves up either way. Yep. You're right.
I definitely want to hear more about your experiences using the board, though. So in our last case that we did, we had a case up in Julie in California, which is about 45 minutes northeast of San Diego. It's a very historic mining town, so it's the right location for paranormal activity with its ley lines and,
Oh, yeah.
limestone
Cool. Yeah.
and foresight and all that. So this lodge that we investigated apparently has a board that's hung on the wall, and it's still behind some pieces of restaurant equipment, because there was a bar in the area where the board hung. So we were going to take it out and, try to do some EMF work on it, delve and weld experiments with it, that sort of thing. We were going to put a compass on it to see if it reacted, but obviously it's stuck behind the wall or behind the equipment, so we can't get to it. But I mean, I think that you should, definitely write about it, at least talk about your experience with the board, because it may help people that are, afraid of using it. Maybe it'll help dispel some, common beliefs about it. I don't know.
Absolutely.
People that are afraid of using it, and it's actually quite depressing. And the whole bad name came all through television. I'm sorry, but it's true.
It is true.
If you look at the facts, every teenager, well, not everyone, but probably about 70% of the teenagers out there growing up, even in our time, have played with Ouija boards, have made their own, gotten them somehow, invited their friends over for a slumber party, beat each other in the head with pillows in their white cotton panties, and then busted out a Ouija board.
All right now, Jason. All right. You've been thinking a little too much about this.
and the thing is, you only hear, a handful of bad situations that came out of it.
Nobody wears white cotton panties anymore. Nobody.
Well, anyway, the same goes for just basic paranormal investigating. I mean, you've got hundreds of teams out there, but you only get a handful of people with a bad experience.
Right.
Now, the TV has portrayed the Ouija board so horrible. They make horror movies out of it, so forth and so on. It's really been blown out of proportion, and that's
it. I'm going to write something about this, and I'm going to do a little how to conduct a seance brochure, and write about my Ouija board experiences. I'm going to do it. It's going to be short. It's going to be like a little book. It's going to be a booklet. Do you know what I mean? Like a booklet.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Because I feel that all of us have something to do.
And I'm going to have a foreword. And there's going to be a couple pages of a foreword from Jason Stanton about these little experiments that he's doing and how nothing happens. Totally. That's what it's going to
be. Oh, and I would be interested in reading those.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now, my next goal is actually to run those experiments in a haunted location.
Yeah.
I may take it to an asylum several times and run the same experiment. Put it down on the thing, put the pinchetta down, put a camera on it, and walk away. Go investigate somewhere else in the building, and just to see what happens.
Have you tried it out at, let's say, San Allegheny or Waverly or any of the sanatoriums at all, or it doesn't even have to be sanatoriums, but hypothetically thinking of?
I think any building that has known activity, I think, is what I'm looking for.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be interested in reading about, what you discover, if there's any patterns that you're discovering, that sort of thing. And I think a lot of other people would be interested as well. So.
Yeah. I may even put something next to it so that they can throw in case it is something evil.
I think you should. Just put Gary. And I think you should provoke and say, just slap him.
I won't do that.
I know. I was trying to make him smile. I know he's having a hard day.
Yeah.
You're right, though. TV has done such damage to authentic paranormal research.
Yeah.
I think that we still have the ability to, prove otherwise, but, the more that these types of shows are coming out, the more it makes us look like clowns running around in the dark, and, so,
I think the TV has given, a lot of people today, and I can get 80% of the people fit into this category. I'm sorry, but it's true. But it's given them a false sense of positive, research. And what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
they watch these. I mean, a lot of people watch these TV shows, and they think these TV shows are giving them 100% of the right answers. They're right.
No.
Well, the
yeah.
They're not even professionals. They're fucking idiots like everybody else on this planet. We're out there trying to find what it is that these things are, what are they made of, and what equipment works best. They're running around with EMF. So why are you running around with an EMF? They listen, we're looking for electromagnetic energy. No, you're not, you dumbass. You're looking for radiation with that thing. That thing picks up not electromagnetic energy. It picks up radio waves. It picks up microwaves. It picks up AC current. It picks up DC current. It's going to go off for all of that. It even picks up your damn Wi-Fi connection. It goes off for all of that, so it's not just picking up EMF. So what are you hoping to accomplish by that using that EMF meter? You understand what I'm saying? And that's what the TV shows and a lot of the media out there is portraying, that this is what it is, when in reality, it's not. You have no idea what it is.
I think it's good to have an understanding of the theories as to why pieces of equipment are used. Because if someone is just going to, use a piece of equipment like a Geiger counter or something, and they don't know, what their theories pertain, why this piece of instrument is used, then what's the point of using it?
So the thing that I like about the Geiger counter, what I like about the Geiger counter, it's a more direct reaction. When that thing goes off, it's only picking up radiation, and that's it. So if you're getting unusual spikes with it, you know why. There's an unusual pattern of radiation somewhere in the area, probably from an entity. Who knows? Now, when you're taking an EMF meter, like the K2 meter, the MEL meter, that is also known for picking up these sort of patterns in the atmosphere, is it really EMF, or is it the radiation in the air that you're getting?
Yeah, it's hard to say, I just like compasses, no one ever just uses a compass anymore. I love using some,
I keep one in my box all the time.
Exactly, me too. These standard, plastic pieces of devices that, I think everyone should have in their arsenal, So, it's funny because when we do private residence cases as well, and one of the questions, there's some more questions for our client interview. We're very thorough, and one of our questions is, did the activity that your experiences and/or pastored, did they occur before or after you started watching the TV doses? And I guarantee you, 99% of the answers to that are, oh yes, it started occurring after I started watching the doses. There you go.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
I keep a lot of the more prehistoric forms of equipment in my case all the time. I still have.
Oh yeah.
I still have dowsing rods. I still have, compasses and.
Right.
I wish I still had my old tape deck recorder, but I don't anymore.
Vibration. Sensory.
I used to use a bottle of water for that. To pick up vibrations, I used to take a bottle of water, put a little bit in the cap, and set it down upstairs, and watch for ripples.
That's interesting. There's so many things you can do, and so many, inexpensive devices and things you can incorporate on investigation. It doesn't always have to be all this fancy equipment that's coming out. Whatever happened to it, like you said, the classic pieces of equipment. I know for me, a compass is always used. That's for sure. So.
Yeah. I love using the compass. I use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pull out a K2 meter, but right next to my K2 meter, I have a flashlight and my compass and something else.
Mm-hmm.
I
love that. I love that about the water that you said, Jason. I've actually never done that. That's a great idea. Just bring a little water. I like that.
I like that too. What about just baby powder? That they use to cure.
Yeah, I have that.
Known to have, a lot of stuff.
Never know.
Put some baby powder around.
Yeah.
Baby powder makes a mess, though. You got to clean it up.
It does. It does.
I know.
You can't do that in a historic location. You can't be making a mess with that.
Yeah. So, something like that you could use to see if,
Yeah. And it's effective. It works effectively.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, in your times being on the Queen Mary and these different teams coming in and out, what has been the most unusual tactic of investigating that you've encountered?
Oh, this is interesting. With the investigations that I've conducted or I've participated in, I would say that on a couple of occasions there was a seance conducted by someone out here in Southern California on the ship, and this person was trying to attempt to reach any Titanic victims that were making their home on the Queen Mary. So his whole idea was a whole quantum physics type of approach. So I would say that was really unusual. And then, there were on certain devices, he was getting words that were relating to the Titanic, but not necessarily, prove that, oh my gosh, that's communication with the ship, with the Titanic. So I would say that was an unusual approach. Again, that was about 3 years ago, but for most of the cases that I've led or I've been a part of, it's just, typical standard, respectable approaches. So, you guys need to get on the ship. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I keep getting in shock by hearing some of these things that you discuss about it, and sadly I'm on the East Coast. I got to get up to the West Coast somehow. I got to get out.
Yeah, that's what I say about the East Coast. So I'm like, how many places I need to go there to?
There's so many great locations. It's so true.
Yeah, I want to announce too that I am going to be speaking at a couple summer locations. One's going to be in Tombstone on May 1st and 2nd. It's a dark side entertainment event put on by Dark Side Entertainment. And they're going to have a huge event out in Tombstone, Arizona with speakers and investigators. So that's May 1st and 2nd. And then there's another event scheduled in August for Bisbee, Arizona. That's about like a half hour away from Tombstone. So I'll be speaking at those. It's really fun, and I know there's other events through Dark Side Entertainment as well that obviously I can't go to. Lost Furnace is one of them, and I believe the Gladstone Hotel, and it's a part of not the Gladstone, the Gadsden Hotel. I forget. I want to say it's Arizona. It has to be.
She's got a bunch of stuff going on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Carol's got a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, she's great. I'm glad to be working with her on these. I know Alcatraz is coming up latter part of 2015, so I'm really looking forward to that. So you have her website information, right, and everything.
I'm sure that she's very good at promoting her events too. So I'm sure that we will see. Yeah, we will see a lot more about that. I'm sure on Facebook.
Absolutely.
It's pretty good. But yeah, you should definitely remind us. When you get closer to those events, definitely remind our listeners. That you have those coming up. People that want to come and see you for sure and talk to you about the Queen Mary, because I'm sure some people will be interested in that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's actually I know for Tombstone I am talking. One of my topics will be the Queen Mary, and that I have spoken at a few well-known conferences in the past about the Queen Mary. So it's basically a presentation, about the history of the ship, and then I incorporate, paranormal happenings, types of hauntings, showcase some evidence, that sort of thing. Another really good website. I just came out with my own website and blog about the Queen Mary. It's www.CARA, the letter X, CLORER project.com. He has some fantastic evidence from the Queen Mary on his site as well. So I suggest, for people that are interested, just, keep checking back at those two sites and, other sites as well that have interesting information about the Queen Mary, and there's always something going on, so.
Cool.
Well, we are running down to the last 5 minutes of the show, and you just started the whole process by doing that. But where can people buy your books and so forth and so on?
Oh, they can buy them Amazon.com online, obviously BarnesandNoble.com, or through Ghost Research Society Press. I am the Southern California Area Research Director for Dale Customer Ghost Research Society. So he has a press company, DRS Press, a lot of fantastic books on the paranormal. So you can just go to ghostresearch.org/press, and you can order them straight from there. I am coming out with 2 new books here with another Queen Mary one within the next 3 months, and then by summer of 2015 I'll have another one out as well about paranormal research. So, but like I said, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, DRS Press, that sort of thing. So.
And I do have to get a lot of other radio show hosts that are listening to my show and so forth and so on, and they tend to follow me around a lot for whatever reason. I don't know. I really don't care, but they like to approach my guests and ask them to be on their show. So if anyone wants to contact you and be a part of your show, how would they do that?
Absolutely. They can contact me. I have my own website. It's www.spirited. Well, I shouldn't have the dashes in there, but it's spirited-ghost-astro.com. Or I would say the best way to reach me is through my team's website, San Diego Paranormal Research.com. It's all one word, San Diego Paranormal Research.com. You can contact me through there, and then or through Facebook. I have again more on Spreaker active on Facebook, and then I'm on Facebook. So my Facebook site is facebook.com/Nicole, the letter CISC as in dog. So you can contact me through there as well. So I love doing shows. I love doing radio shows. So.
Well, thanks for joining us, Nicole. We enjoyed having you.
Thank you.
And you and I will keep in touch. We're going to keep in touch.
Oh yes, let's do that, ladies, for sure. Next time you guys come out to Southern California, let me know.
Totally, I will. We will definitely get in touch.
Thank you so much, guys. I had such a great time.
And Diva, you got to give out your information too.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to get in touch with me, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram at Johaunts, JOHAUNTS, or at Jodi, JODIE, quotation, Johaunts Smith, SMITH on Facebook, and of course on the Ghost Chat Radio fan page on Facebook. I'll see you there.
Yay.
That's actually the best place to get a hold of either one of us is right there on the fan page. Go ahead, give it a like.
Yeah, I would say Facebook is for me too.
Yeah. It gives everybody updates of what's going on with the show, how we're doing it. Like tomorrow's much trivia.
Tomorrow. This tomorrow we've got Brian Cano from the Haunted Club.
Yeah, I'm listening to that show for sure.
Don't miss
it. Brian's awesome. He's been on my show one other time. He's a cool dude, real laid back, mellow. He's all right.
Yay.
And it's next day.
Thanks so much, guys. I had such a good time on your show.
Well, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us. And, of course, you can find Jason Stanton on Facebook. I don't think he said that, but you can find him there.
I didn't say that, but you can. You can say that. You can find me on Facebook. Just look up Jason Stanton, and you'll contact me, message me, feel free, have fun. I'll get to you as soon as I can. But your best bet is just go to the Ghost Chat Radio fan page, give it a like, and you can send a message there, and you'll get me or Jodi.
Absolutely. And we'll see you tomorrow from 9 to 11 Eastern Time. Right here.
Yep. Right here on DGM Wicked Radio. And that's it, everyone. Check you out tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.